I recently had the pleasure of chatting with award-winning Ugandan author and filmmaker Dil Mandela about my favorite topic in the whole wide world. You guessed it, African mythology and folklore. This happened during the just ended African Book Festival in Berlin, which was one of the best experiences of my life as a curator of mythology and folklore from the African continent, and you'll be hearing about that in the July newsletter. In between reflections on the challenges of delineating European narratives from indigenous African folklore, we spent some time, Dilman and I, on the phenomenon of folk tales about strangers who come from Lake Victoria. And something that stood out during this conversation was the realization once again of how African mythology truly does encapsulate so much of ancient African history and what we stand to lose if we don't give these old stories the attention and analysis they deserve. And so in today's episode of the Mythological Africans podcast, we return to one of these accounts of strangers who comes from this greatest of African lakes with some perspective from the Baganda of Uganda. Hello, friends, and welcome to the Mythological Africans podcast, where we read and talk about stories from African mythology and folklore. I am your host, Helen Tunde. As some of you might know, in Luganda, which is the language spoken by the Baganda, Lake Victoria is called Nalubaale. The word Nalubaale can be broken down into two components, the prefix na, which is used in reference to mothers and usually has a girl's name that's associated with it, and the word lubaale, which is often taken to mean ancestral spirit or guardian spirit or god in some cases. And what's important to know is that the lubaale of the Baganda are deified ancestors. So these were people who existed and who had special skills or characteristics or played important roles in the history of their people and so are revered and petitioned and propitiated as guardian spirits. And this is a phenomenon that happens all across the African continent. Putting all this together, Nalubaale translates to mother of the gods or mother of the guardian spirits. While this name suggests feminine or motherly qualities, Nalubaale, interestingly, is also the name of a royal drum for Kibuka, who is the Baganda god of war. Kibuka's brother, Mukasa, as it turns out, is actually honored among the Baganda as the god of Lake Victoria or as the spirit of Lake Victoria. Mukasa and Kibuka are born of greatness. Their father is Musisi and their grandfather is Bokulu. And if you know your Baganda mytho history, these are two of some of the most revered personages in that context. Their great-grandfather is Katonda, who is literally the supreme being of the Baganda, which I thought that was very interesting. In some accounts, Musisi lives in the center of the earth and is the god of earthquakes since he causes them when he moves. Now, if you know anything about magma convection and plate tectonics and how earthquakes actually happen, you will appreciate how close to the scientific truth this bit of folklore actually is. I thought that was really, really nice. That's just quite the pedigree, isn't it? Their mother is Nambubi Namatimba, and she is a woman of the Longfish clan among the Ganda. Historically, the people of the Longfish clan were key players in the canoe-driven economy that flourished and still does along the lake shores. This is probably a good time to mention that Mukasa, Musisi, Bukulu, and all the other people in this eminent family are lubaale of the Ganda. It is said that when she was pregnant with Mukasa, Nambubi just refused to eat any food except for a special kind of ripe plantains known as gonja. And if my quick research was accurate, then gonja is used to make Ugandan fried plantains. And that's enough said. I'm West African. We live for fried plantains, so I get it. Her son, after he was born and weaned, continued her peculiar eating habits. He refused to eat anything other than the heart and liver of animals, and he also drank their blood. Mukasa was also known to wander about, and at one point he just simply disappeared from home without a trace. But then he showed up on the island of Bubembe, sitting under a large tree near the lake. And when the people of the island saw this strange child, they ran to tell the village elders. The elders came and spoke with him, and from what they could gather, they concluded that he came from Busaka Island, hence the name Mukasa. But what they were not so sure of is what to do with this child. The people, they were afraid to take him into their houses. He cannot be a regular human being, they said amongst themselves. How did he get here? How did he cross the lake? Some people, you know how it was, they were like, just leave him there. But one of the men who came was a man named Semagumba, and he just refused to leave a child defenseless on the lake shore. So he carried the boy to a farm near the village and left him on a rock where he would be safe for the night. Morning came, and many mornings came after, but the people were still afraid to take Mukasa in as one of them. So they decided to build him a hut near the rock where they had left him. Semagumba, who had tacitly assumed responsibility for the child, was charged with taking care of him. Two other men, Gugu and Sebadide, decided to help. The three men did their best, but feeding the child proved difficult. The boy refused to eat anything he was offered. But then one day the people killed an ox. And to their shock, Mukasa asked for the animal's heart, liver, and blood. And when they gave it to him, he devoured them. When they offered him other parts of the animal to eat, he refused. See, the people whispered amongst themselves, he's definitely not a regular human being. But the boy continued to live amongst them, and they noticed that he was especially knowledgeable about healing and also had really good advice to give in times of trouble. And so soon, Mukasa was one of the people that people would come to with all their troubles. Time passed, and his name became known to the people throughout the land. His fame spread everywhere, and they would come to him with petitions and ask for help, with illnesses for healing. Semagumba became his main medium, and Gugu and Sebadide assisted. And as the legend goes, he married 3 wives, a woman named Nalwanga, who's the daughter of Kibonge of the bird clan, Najembe, daughter of Musumba of the monkey clan, and Naku, a woman of the Genet clan. In some accounts, Mukasa lived for 14 generations, always in the hut the people had built for him, and always with his priests, Semagumba, Gugu, and Sebadide to care for him. Mukasa's shrine still stands today on Bubembe Island. Mukasa is beloved by the people who venerate him because he is benevolent. He's one of the benevolent gods. He gives good health and wealth and is never associated with wars, unlike his brother Kibuka. Mukasa's sacred emblem is a paddle, which, when you come from a water-faring people, might as well be the symbol for life, since so much about what life was about was dependent on travel by canoe. So trade, travel to see relatives, travel to other places, everything was done by canoe. So that paddle was a very important symbol. There is also likely a connection back to his mother, Nambumbi, who, if you remember, came from the Longfish clan, who also have a very strong association with canoes. I love everything about this story, and as I told Dilman during our conversation, I would absolutely love to see these Stranger from the Lake stories made into a short film. The one thing I do have questions about is the fact that a child ended up in the care of 3 men. And I don't know about you all, but my thinking is that either the men of Bubembe Island are quite keen on raising children, or the story has been edited by the forces of mythological time to establish a precedent for the Mukasa priesthood, because from what I understand, till this day, priests of Mukasa are called Semagumba, Gugu, and Sebadide to honor the original 3. And this is not a new phenomenon. We saw this actually in March during the episode about the Nakaima tree and the Nakaima priest. And the priest was called Nakaima, if I remember correctly, to honor the Lubaale, the spirit. So we'll stop here for the week. As always, you will find references in the episode notes. And if you like short films, you should check out Dilman's short films. He has a YouTube channel, and I'll include a link to one of the short films in the episode notes as well. Thank you as always for listening, and I will see you next week.